Private Jack Reynolds spat into the dirt, the bitter taste of hunger and despair lingering on his tongue. The sun seemed to mock him as it beat down relentlessly on Andersonville Prison, the infamous Confederate POW camp, swarming with Union soldiers like ants in a disturbed hill. The stench of death and disease hung heavy in the humid Georgian air, a constant reminder of the dire situation. Jack had been one of the lucky ones, or so they said, captured after the Battle of Cold Harbor. He had managed to survive the brutal journey south. Andersonville, officially called Camp Sumner, was supposed to be his temporary home. But temporary had stretched into months. Food was scarce, sickness was rampant, and every day became a test of his will to live. In a corner of the sprawling camp, Jack met his first ally, Sergeant William Collins. A grizzled veteran with a permanent scowl etched onto his face, Collins had an uncanny knack for finding scraps of food and clean water. "Stick with me, Reynolds," Collins grunted, his voice raspy from weeks, maybe months of dehydration. "I've seen men die for less than a crust of bread." Jack didn't hesitate. They formed a bond born out of necessity, their survival hinging on each other's strengths and instincts. For every escape plan that failed, for every friend they lost to disease or malnutrition, their resolve hardened. One night, as the two huddled under a makeshift shelter cobbled together from torn blankets and rotting wood, Jack whispered a question that had been gnawing at him. "How do you keep going, Collins?" Collins took a long, measurable pause. "Hope," he finally said. "Hope that there's something better than this hell. Maybe it's dreams of getting home. Maybe it's just defiance, proving we won't break. I don't know, but hope is all we've got." Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Their meager rations dwindled further, but Jack and Collins continued to scavenge and barter. They learned who could be trusted, who to avoid, and how to navigate the complex web of alliances within the camp. Rumors of a Union victory floated in with new prisoners, kindling sparks of hope among the weary men. But hope was dangerous, doubling the agony of disappointment. On one fateful day, the camp was struck by a severe outbreak of dysentery. Panic spread faster than the disease as men succumbed by the dozens. Jack watched in horror as Collins fell victim, his once indomitable spirit hollowed out in a matter of days. "Don't you give up," Collins rasped with his last breath, gripping Jack's arm with surprising strength. "You hear me?" The camp was never the same. Jack felt the crushing weight of loneliness but held tight to Collins' final words. He dug deep into reserves of strength he never knew he had, forging new alliances and sharing whatever scraps he could find. The prison walls seemed to close in tighter, but he battled each day with dogged determination. Finally, after a grueling year, news of the South's surrender reached Andersonville. A sigh of relief swept through the camp like a cleansing wind. Union forces arrived soon after, bringing food, medical supplies, and the promise of freedom. Though skeletal and weak, Jack stood tall as he prepared to leave the place that had tested every fiber of his being. As he took his first steps toward the long road home, he carried with him the indelible memories of his fallen friends and the lessons learned in the darkest of times. And most of all, he carried hope, the unyielding beacon that had guided him through the abyss.